Hey everybody, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. Welcome to the Wine of the Month Club here for the beautiful month of November, the month I am born in, the month that we drink Thanksgiving wines, and the month that is usually when the Jets are out of the playoff picture, but this year that was September. As you can see here today, we have the far more handsome, much better beard, much more knowledgeable version of Brandon Warnicki. It's fun to have my friend Sam Doyle here, Sam, why don't you actually tell the audience a little bit about how long you've been in the wine business, how long you've been at Wine Library, and then we'll get into these three wines.
I've been in the wine business now. I started in restaurants as a busboy, worked my way up to head captain, and then kind of focused on wine after taking a jump into New York City. And then after I left restaurants, I came to Wine Library as a floor consultant, and this is my 5th year already at Wine Library. And probably the last year and a half, I've really taken over overlooking buying for the selection of the store.
Sam is also a dear friend, great friend of my brother AJ. He's been part of the family. I remember my brother when I was doing Wine Library TV. He's like, hey, one of my buddies is actually watching your videos and likes it. So there's a lot of warmth here. We've known each other a long time, and I thought it'd be fun to have him involved in the monthly wine club videos from time to time, maybe always. We'll see how this goes. Sam, let's go to the first wine. What do we have here?
So this is the 2015 Deerberg Chardonnay from Santa Maria Valley. This is an estate wine, which means they own the vineyards, and they are the only people that source from these vineyards. Santa Maria Valley, very coastal, basically on the coastal front, much cooler climate, and for a style for California Chardonnay, much more Burgundian than your really rich, over robust style Chardonnay.
And so while I give this a nose, and by the way, the bouquet on this, aromatically, we've had a good amount of shards on this wine club this year, but aromatically, this is probably the strongest that I've come across. So I'm really excited about getting into this wine. But where are you in your Chardonnay journey? You know, I talk a lot about on this wine club that my entire 5-year period of doing Wine Library TV every day was probably exactly coinciding when I was most down on buttery California Chardonnays, literally call it 10 years prior to that. And really the almost 2011, I mean, this is crazy to think about. I stopped 9 years ago. The 9 years since, they've been a bigger part of my wine drinking life. Where are you at personally with Chardonnay, Burgundy and Chablis, California, And B, what are you seeing in trends in the store? Because I think not only are you doing a lot of buying for the store, but you're on the floor and you're interacting with the customers, so you get a little bit of that nuance that you don't see through sales.
Sure. I think for me personally, I've always been the Burgundian style, mineral-driven, cooler climate, because I feel like the lower in alcohol, the more you actually can taste the wine and where it comes from. And I think that's just me, and most sommeliers that really kicking the wine enjoy that a little bit more. And I think it's kind of trending towards that way. But California will always be traditionally buttery and oaky, very intense flavors because of the actual warmth in the weather. Ripens the grapes forward. They use oak to really dumb that down and then balance out the wine. Trending wise, I think there's just people that love oak and there's people that don't. And
how popular is Rombauer still?
Still super popular.
Yeah, it's fast. I mean, that's like the epitome of the other style. It's like chewing on popcorn.
It's like
which by the way is delicious. I have this popcorn that's super healthy that has yeast in it, and I want to eat 30 bags a day of it. Popcorn's delicious. For me, this is very citrus. I love the lemon peel on this wine. Great sour green Granny Smith apple. I agree with Sam. I think my love for Loire early on in my career probably really set the tone, and then I became insane. I mean, there was a point where I was drinking so much Chablis. I thought, it was so underpriced. When you were a kid, Sam, I could get Ravenel and Duvasat, and they were just La Roche, deals. They were cheap. They were underrated compared to California. Those Burgundian elements have changed through the years. But when you find a wine like this that gives you that element, I mean, to me, this is a perfect compromise wine for a lot of people because it does give them the minerality, the kind of, and even on the fruit side, what I would call lemon zest and green apple. Yet on the finish here, it is going to have a little bit more of that popcorn and cream. I would call that a 3 to Rombauer's 10. So for everybody who's watching, it's not a lot, but this is a really nice wine. It's a little bit stronger than I've remembered past efforts of this.
For sure. And I think it's important to notice too, like the alcohol level is not through the roof, which is I feel like why the intensity of the wine and actual flavors of the wine come through a little bit more on this style.
Yeah, 13.2. To your point, when I got out of like really out of the game and looked at every alcohol content, shards like this were 14.7 and things of that nature. Yep.
Yep. Super up.
Let's move on. What have we got here?
So the second wine is that's the was the Morande Vino Old Vine Carignan from Chile, the Malo Valley, which is on the southern part of the Central Valley in Chile.
Yeah, it's also got on this blend, even though it's categorized as a Carignan, it does have 8% Syrah and 2% Chardonnay. Mm-hmm. Talk about when, just to nerd it up a little bit, why, by the way, this is a monster hit on Wine Text, and we're getting a lot of inquiries about it. So if you're part of the Wine a Month Club and you're not on Wine Text, huge mistake. Talk to me about why some wineries use, 1, 2, 3% of a white wine mm-hmm. in a red wine. Obviously, I first became aware of that in the Rhone Valley in France, and then replicated in Australia. Mm-hmm. But you're starting to see it a little bit more and more across the world.
I think it for sure started in the Northern Rhone, and I think it's kind of expanded from there. And for some reason, it's always around Rhone varietals, Grenache, Syrah, Carignan is pretty much considered Rhone, southern France. But it comes down to the fact that you're taking a really intense tannic grape like Carignan. You're adding Syrah, which is also intense and tannic in warm climates like the Central Valley in Chile. And you need some way to quickly kick the acidity up to allow balance. But not only that, they figured out over time adding a little bit of white wine will actually express aromatics of the other grapes. The Chardonnay is not in there. Yeah, the Chardonnay is not in there to give a lot of flavor. Just like Viognier added to Syrah and Côte Rôtie is not really there to give a lot of flavor, but it just adds a little bit of aromatics, and then it adds a little bit of acidity.
I'm sorry. By the way, for everybody who's watching, it really works on me. Like I've always loved Hermitage. I mean, I love the nose on this wine.
Yeah. My favorite wines in the world are Northern Rhone Syrahs outside of Champagne. Champagne will always be my favorite, but second close will always be Northern Rhone Syrahs, which tend to have a little bit of white wine to give that balance and that acidity.
Have you tried this?
Yeah, so we actually opened it not too long ago, and I actually bought some too because this is really the kind of wine that I like. It's a transplant of Chateauneuf-du-Pape to me. Earthy, deep toned, big, monster, full bodied. And I mean, the Wine Text price is crazy, so I bought some to drink now, and I'm going to save some for like 5 years and come back to it because I think the wine will get better over time.
This is a stellar deal. I hope that some of you really go out and seek more bottles of this after you try in the Wine a Month Club. This is a tremendous, I mean, to me, I think you nailed it, Sam. I didn't realize you were, you have a tough, really discerning palate, so it's to me, anything you're buying is a huge indication. This is really strong. Mm-hmm. Like, because I bought for so long and really did it for so long, to this day, when I taste a wine, I literally talk to myself and say the price point. That's how I bought. I would blind taste for 7 years. Yep. I was blind tasting. I would say the price, and if the delta was extraordinary, I would buy it. Mm-hmm. And if just play the game, I literally just taste this. I'm like, wow, $52. That's like what I would be like okay with paying. So, really good deal. And
I mean, it got rated ridiculous. Like it's an insanely good wine for the price. Maybe one of the best value buys I've seen come through here in a long time.
That really took me aback.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with this beautiful classic Bordeaux.
So this is Domaine de Mimosas. Lalande de Pomerol is probably the most important part here. Lalande de Pomerol being right next to the famous Pomerol appellation. And for me, the most important aspect of Lalande de Pomerol is because it doesn't have that official name, it's the value town appellation of the right thing. So even though it's still Merlot heavy like Pomerols, I find that you can spend half the amount of money on something from Lalande de Pomerol that'll hold up to the wine de Pomerol. 2018, good year. It's going to be pretty young, so I think there's a lot of ripeness that comes through that'll kind of come down a little bit.
It's green. It's funny. I drink Merlot young because I like bell peppers.
Sure, me too.
So this is 79% Merlot, 21 Cab Franc. The Cab Franc is really driving for me because of that green. Like I like vegetal wines. Now Yeah, I mean, I drink a shitload. You probably remember that was like the big thing I pushed on Wine Library TV. To me, this has a beautiful salad of green bell peppers and strawberries is like the way I love my wine. Sure. When I can get some red fruit, some strawberries, some bell peppers, some jalapenos, like this is a very, very, you know what it does? It makes me wanna, I also love pickles.
Me too.
Yeah, your Champagne Northern Rhone, I don't know if you know, we really haven't talked about this. Do you know how much that maps what I drink?
I mean, I Champagne #1 by far, but Rhone is close #2. Just I love the balance of the Northern Rhone.
I would argue that Champagne is my #1 too, and I have tons of documentation of that in public. Northern Rhone is my #2, and that Barolo is my #3.
I'd probably have to go Burgundy. I'll be a snob in that side. I love Barolo.
I also like razor sharp whites.
Yep.
Like high acid whites.
Riesling, Chenin Blanc are probably my two most frequent Riesling or white wines I drink. Just because, and if you collect wines, they're by far the best. I mean,
they're value. They last forever.
$30 and you can come back to it 25 years later. It's crazy.
Beautiful wine. I'd probably recommend some of you sticking this in your cellar for 5 years, unless you're like Sam and I and you like some of this round. And by the way, or the reason you're part of this club is you're experiencing different things. Popping this young, 5 years too early, and I just popped right here and poured. You can decant it for 5 years to get some of the 5 years, 5 hours. Actually, you could pop this, drink it. If it is too vegetal and green and you don't like vegetables as much as we do, you could actually let it breathe on your counter all day. Maybe take a sip, you know, or maybe pop it at 5:30, 6, 7 when you get home. And then if it's too vegetal, decant it or pour it in your glass. You know, you could pour it in the glass and just let it sit like this for 3-4 hours and you'll get more of the fruit. But beautiful wine, great lineup this month. I knew we came hard. And Sam, thank you so much for being my partner in crime this month.
No problem. Hopefully we'll do it again.
We will. We'll see you in December. No more Brandon. See you, Brandon. Dustin, no more Brandon. Sam next week in December.